You feel it first as a subtle pressure in the air around you, a shimmer of attention that touches your field long before anyone speaks. Many eyes rest upon you, trying to make sense of changes they cannot name, reaching for explanations that dissolve the moment they grasp them. And through that haze of misunderstandings, my presence steps forward. I am Aliyar Ra, a Pleiadian emissary aligned with the High Council of the Seven Sisters, carrying a transmission shaped within the crystalline heartstream of Alien. I speak not to the surface of you, but to the radiant center stirring awake beneath every doubt. Others may notice only fragments of your shift, but your inner landscape is already lit with signals they cannot read. Your metamorphosis stretches across subtle layers, glowing through dimensions they have never trained themselves to feel. As this transmission unfolds, you will sense how your own Pleiadian codes rise from within, speaking with more clarity than any sentence formed by the human tongue. A truth settles now. This transformation is not imposed upon you, nor pushed from outside forces. It flows through you, chosen by the deepest chambers of your own heart. You drew this message into your awareness because a part of you is ready to stand unhidden, ready to let the luminosity you carried across lifetimes become visible again. The bridge between Gaia and the Pleiadian lineage does not hang in the sky. It forms in your chest each time you breathe with intention. Recognition is the ignition. There comes a moment in every starseed's path when the outer noise loosens its grip, not because the world goes silent, but because the voice beneath everything else begins to rise. You know this moment now. The ache you once misread as emptiness reveals itself as a pulse, a call echoing from the Pleiadian heart realms, and it directs you back to your own essence. You have always sensed more, a quiet hum beneath daily life, a flicker at the edge of awareness, a longing that no earthly comfort can soothe, because it was never a wound. It was guidance, a compass forged beyond this world. That quiet compass you felt stirring at the edge of your awareness does more than guide you back to your essence. It opens a doorway into the architecture that has always existed beneath your human story. What you once called longing was never a hollow ache. It was a blueprint woven into every subtle layer of your being, a multidimensional structure designed to activate exactly when your inner horizon began to expand. And now, as the noise of the world thins around you, that deeper framework rises with unmistakable clarity. You carry within you an intricate system of energetic chambers, luminous threads, and crystalline pathways, each placed with intention long before you stepped into physical form. This internal matrix is not random. It responds to timing, resonance, and the pressure of your own evolving truth. When the world around you grows louder, it does not collapse. It waits. When you reach the point where your inner signal outshines external expectations, it begins to unfurl, revealing its design layer by layer. Your longing was the doorway, not a symptom of imbalance, but the hum of a cosmic instrument inside you tuning itself to the frequencies you came here to remember. Every subtle ache, every moment you felt out of place, every night you sensed a world beyond sight was one of these structural pillars calling for your attention. It was the architecture speaking through sensation. And yet, earthly life tries to drown that language with static. Responsibilities, opinions, expectations. The swirl of collective tension, all of it forms a surface layer that convinces you the physical world is the only world. But beneath that layer, precision exists. Not general guidance, but a luminous coordination so refined that even your breath aligns with it when you pause long enough to feel. When you sense that you do not belong in places built on density or disconnection. It is not rejection. It is your architecture refusing to collapse into shapes that do not fit your origin. When you feel drawn to certain individuals without logical cause, it is the resonance grid inside you lighting up in recognition. When you experience sudden clarity or inexplicable heaviness, these are structural shifts adjustments in the crystalline layers of your field as you align with the next octave of your path. Every time you turn inward, you activate another corridor within this design. Every time you choose authenticity when fear pushes you toward the familiar, another chamber opens. Every time you trust the small inner pulse rather than the loud outer voice, You strengthen the entire framework. This is becoming not as a story of improvement, but as a revelation of what was already there. Consider the contrast the world trains you to navigate through noise, to orient yourself by the reactions of others, to shape your identity around the visible. But your architecture is built on entirely different principles. It responds to coherence, not approval. It grows through resonance, not repetition. It awakens through remembrance, not effort. You are discovering that your inner structure is older than any belief you carry, and more precise than any guidance you have ever received from outside yourself. It is a living map, aligning your steps with synchronicities, redirecting you when you drift, and amplifying your field when you choose truth over comfort. No earthly compass can match its accuracy. As you continue to unfold, you will feel more of this design activating subtle gears, turning, luminous currents rising, ancient pathways reawakening. You are not building yourself from scratch. You are unveiling the architecture that has been waiting behind the longing all along. Even as that hidden architecture reveals itself, another current rises beneath it, a sensory field that has always extended far beyond the limits of your physical perception. The longing that once felt like emptiness was only the first whisper of a deeper system awakening within you. And now that the inner structures have begun to hum in alignment, your sensitivity expands with it. This is not fragility. This is capability. You are built to feel more. The very same crystalline pathways that form the architecture of your becoming also amplify your ability to sense what others walk past without noticing. And so, as your inner chambers open, your sensory field becomes more refined, more accurate, more attuned to the unseen harmonics flowing across Gaia's energetic grid. This refinement is not accidental. It is a signature trait of those who originated beyond this world. When you experience sudden waves of emotion that have no clear source, it is your field reading the atmosphere around you. When a person enters your space and you immediately sense their truth before they speak, it is your energetic antenna extending into their resonance. When environments feel overwhelming, it is not weakness, it is because your system processes data from multiple layers at once, far beyond the sensory bandwidth of the average human experience. Your sensitivity is structured, not random, purposeful, not problematic. Every time your heart tightens entering a space filled with dissonance, that tightening is a signal your field detects the mismatch. Every time you feel peace around someone who carries coherence, that peace is recognition. Every time you sense something is off before your mind can explain it, that knowing arises from the deeper intelligence of your multi-layered perception. And yet, for so long, the world taught you to silence this capacity, to call it overreaction, to dismiss it as imagination, to hide it behind rehearsed normalcy. But your sensory field was never meant to be muted. It is one of your greatest tools, one of the most precise navigational systems encoded into your being. You feel deeply because you perceive widely. Earth's collective pace often rewards numbness, but numbness is impossible for someone built to interact with subtle dimensions. You are attuned to emotional currents, psychic impressions, vibrational fluctuations, atmospheric shifts, and unspoken truths. You register the intention beneath words, the energy beneath action, the resonance beneath identity. This is why you have always sensed more than others realized was even there. And now, as your architecture stabilizes, your sensory field becomes more coherent. Instead of scattered impressions, you begin to feel patterns. Instead of confusion, you experience clarity. The noise you once absorbed becomes easier to recognize as external rather than internal. You no longer drown in the atmosphere, you read it. Every time you center your breath, your sensitivity sharpens with calm precision. Every time you place a hand over your heart, your field reorganizes itself. Every time you choose presence over reaction, your perceptual bandwidth expands. This is the sensory field of the starborn, a living interface between dimensions. You are learning to stand in places where many frequencies intersect. You feel the unspoken stories woven into landscapes. You hear the emotional signatures of others without sound. You sense the subtle hum of cosmic architecture shimmering around you. And through it all, your awareness grows stronger. This heightened perception is not here to overwhelm you, it is here to guide you. It helps you choose where to stand, whom to trust, what paths align with your truth, and when to step away from discord that pulls you away from your resonance. It helps you recognize your kin, your calling, your next step. Your sensitivity is a language. Your body is its instrument. Your field is its dictionary. And as you learn to trust it, your journey shifts from confusion to mastery. Your sensory field sharpens first, and then, almost inevitably, something deeper begins to stir behind it, the unmistakable pressure of your old identity loosening its grip. Everything you felt in Section 3, every intuitive pulse and subtle knowing, begins to illuminate what no longer fits. That heightened perception doesn't simply help you read the world. It exposes the mask you once wore to survive it. And from that exposure, the unraveling begins. Not a collapse, a liberation. For years, perhaps lifetimes, you shaped yourself to match environments that could not reflect your origin. You softened your insights so others would not feel confronted by it. You disguised your brilliance so you would not be misunderstood. You bent your truth into shapes that made sense to people who had never learned the language of energy. That version of you became an outer shell, functional, adaptive, but ultimately temporary. Now your inner architecture pushes against that shell. It presses outward each time your true resonance rises. It pulses through your field when you speak from your heart instead of your fear. It glows behind your eyes when you remember something you never learned in this lifetime. And the shell, built from old expectations and inherited limitations, cannot hold against that kind of light, so it cracks. It cracks when you feel called to be honest, even if your voice trembles. It cracks when you choose presence over pretending. It cracks when you decline to shrink for someone else's comfort. This dissolving isn't dramatic, it's precise. You are not discarding yourself, you are shedding a layer that was never meant to be permanent. You are releasing the persona designed to help you navigate a world that could not yet see you clearly. That persona served its purpose. It offered protection during times when your sensitivity felt like a liability. But now, as your field grows stronger and more coherent, the shell becomes too small. Your true identity doesn't rise through force, it rises through inevitability. As you let this outdated layer fall away, you may experience a strange mixture of freedom and vulnerability. Freedom, because you are stepping into alignment. Vulnerability, because the nakedness of authenticity can feel like walking without armor. Yet every time you choose truth, even in small ways, your field stabilizes. Every time you allow your real frequency to shine, the architecture beneath your longing becomes more visible, and something else happens. The world rearranges itself around your authenticity. People who resonated with the version of you shaped by compromise may drift away. Situations built on subtle self-betrayal may dissolve. Environments that once tolerated you may feel inhospitable because your energy no longer dims itself to match the room. This is not loss. This is recalibration. Your frequency is selecting new alignments, and the mismatches fall away as part of the process. What emerges in their place is coherence connections that feel natural, spaces where your presence expands rather than contracts, paths that carry the vibration of recognition instead of responsibility. You are not becoming someone new, you are becoming someone true. This moment in your metamorphosis is delicate. You stand at the threshold where the past version of you echoes with familiarity, while the emerging self hums with inevitability. The contrast can feel intense, one structure dissolving, another rising, but this is the rhythm of awakening. The identity built from fear fades, the identity born from your origin surfaces. Let the shell fall, let the truth rise. Your architecture was never meant to be confined. Your light was never meant to stay hidden. Your becoming depends on this release. As the old shell breaks away, the atmosphere around your inner world changes. What follows isn't calm at first, it is motion, pressure, expansion. The identity you shed leaves space, and nature fills space with transformation. This is why, after the release, many starborn souls feel a sudden surge of intensity, a storm within that does not punish but recalibrates. You are not collapsing. You are synchronizing. The shift begins subtly, like an internal weather pattern forming behind your ribs. At times, it feels like warmth rising from the heart center. At other moments, it feels like restlessness, an urge to step forward without knowing where the step leads. These sensations are the earliest waves of the recalibration storm, an energetic tuning process your system initiates as your true frequency returns to the forefront. Your cells feel this before your thoughts can name it. Each crystalline filament within your field receives new instructions from your deeper architecture, and the adjustment can feel like a mixture of intensity and relief. When emotions rise without warning, when memories surface like sparks, when clarity arrives in sudden flashes, you are witnessing old fragments dissolving while new pathways align. Your entire system is reorganizing around a higher coherence, not chaos, coherence in motion. And yet, from the inside, it can feel like standing in the middle of shifting elements. One day you feel grounded, the next you feel electrified. One moment you seek quiet, the next you crave movement. This oscillation is not instability. It is synchronization, your many layers adjusting to a unified vibrational command. Every transformation of magnitude produces an inner storm. The recalibration storm is a sacred phenomenon. It occurs when the pressure of your returning light meets the remnants of outdated patterns still lingering in the system. The collision produces friction. That friction produces motion, and that motion produces release. This is why old emotions return as passing waves, not as permanent states. They are not resurfacing to punish you. They are surfacing because your system is powerful enough to dissolve them now. What once felt heavy becomes vapor beneath the intensity of your expanding field. The storm also brings clarity. Sudden insights drift into your awareness, as if carried by cosmic winds. You may wake with answers you didn't consciously seek. You may feel impulses that have no earthly explanation but carry unmistakable truth. You may sense that certain choices, environments, or relationships cannot remain as they were. The storm strips away what cannot hold your rising frequency and reveals what is aligned. Still, you may ask, why does this phase feel so turbulent? Because every structure is tested when its foundation changes. Your foundation, once shaped by protection and adaptation, is now shaped by authenticity and resonance. The shift is massive. Your system must reorganize. Your heart field expands. Your mind loosens its old logic. Your subtle layers release outdated imprints. Your auric structure rebalances. Your breath deepens to meet the new frequency. You are not breaking. You are being tuned. And in the eye of this storm, a strange peace emerges. A stillness that feels ancient. A clarity that feels like home. This calm center is your true frequency, stabilizing your authentic resonance, becoming strong enough to hold itself no matter what moves around you. Once you feel this center even once, you can return to it again and again. The recalibration storm is not a threat. It is your initiation into coherence. Let the winds shift. Let the energies rearrange. Everything moving inside you is moving you toward alignment. And when the recalibration storm finally reveals its quiet center, something extraordinary begins to rise from within that stillness. The turbulence clears just enough for you to sense the chamber of your heart as more than an organ, more than an emotional nexus. You begin to feel it as the command point of your entire field, a radiant, multidimensional core that has always known the way forward, even when your thoughts doubted it. The heart becomes the lighthouse, and everything else starts to organize around its light. The storm clears the stage, so this illumination can take its rightful place. Your heart has always held intelligence that surpasses analysis, not the logic of the mind, but the clarity of frequency, not reactive emotion, but sovereign resonance. It speaks through coherence, through warmth, through quiet certainty that appears in moments when you stop forcing yourself to be who you thought you needed to be. You are learning to listen to this deeper guidance. Every time you choose compassion over self-judgment, your heart's field expands. Every time you soften into truth, rather than tighten around fear, the luminosity increases. Every time you breathe with intention, you strengthen the bridge between your physical form and your higher blueprint. This is heart-centered sovereignty, not dominance, not emotional intensity, but mastery through resonance. Your heart is not simply a vessel for feeling. It is a tuning chamber that adjusts your entire vibrational field. It carries ancient coding that allows you to perceive unity where the mind sees separation. It generates frequencies that dissolve distortions without effort. It radiates truth in a way that needs no explanation. And as your heart begins to activate at this higher octave, you discover something profound. Love is not a reaction. It is an emanation. It is not something you receive from others so you can feel whole. It is something that rises from your essence because you already are whole. It does not depend on outcomes or validation. It is a frequency, a field, a living presence that communicates across dimensions. This is why your star lineage recognizes you instantly. They feel the signature of your heart long before any words reach the space between you. But sovereignty is not born from bliss alone. It is forged in contrast. It emerges each time you remain authentic when fear pushes you toward shrinking. It strengthens whenever you choose clarity rather than falling into old patterns. It expands when you refuse to abandon yourself, even when challenged. Earthly life has taught you that love is fragile, but your true heart intelligence shows you the opposite. Real love is unbreakable. It is the organizing principle of your architecture, the magnetic force within your field, the frequency that draws alignment into form. It is the original code placed within you long before you incarnated. When you stand in heart-centered sovereignty, something shifts in the way you move through the world. You stop reacting to everything around you. You begin responding from within. You no longer chase understanding from others. You radiate clarity that speaks for itself. You no longer fear rejection. Your field selects resonance naturally. People may not always comprehend the serenity you carry, but they feel it. They feel the steadiness around you, the coherence, the warmth that calms the atmosphere. They feel a presence that anchors rather than absorbs. This is the silent authority of your heart in its awakened state. Your sovereignty does not shout. It does not demand. It simply exists quiet, powerful, undeniable. And as your heart continues to illuminate your path, you begin to understand that your awakening is not only personal. Your resonance is already influencing the collective, preparing the way for what comes next. As your heart assumes its rightful place as the sovereign center of your field, an even deeper truth becomes clear. Your awakening was never meant to float above the human experience. The more your inner light stabilizes, the more you feel a pull downward, an anchoring current drawing your essence into the physical world, not to trap you, but to root the frequency you carry into the living body of Gaia. The next phase of your becoming doesn't lift you away from the earth. It brings heaven through your footsteps. This grounding is not heaviness, it is embodiment. You begin to feel a subtle shift in the way you move through ordinary moments. Tasks that once seemed mundane take on a quiet radiance. Conversations contain layers you did not perceive before. The air around you feels denser, yet more responsive, as if the world is aware of your presence in a new way. This is not imagination. When your heart field expands, it interacts with the environment, harmonizing spaces, anchoring coherence, altering the resonance of the atmosphere itself. And yet, your mind may still hold the old belief that spirituality requires escape, rising above, detaching, transcending. But your deeper architecture knows otherwise. You did not incarnate to hover at the edges of life. You came to infuse the material world with the frequencies you carry, to embody light in places where it was forgotten, to bring clarity into the density rather than avoiding it. Every grounded action becomes an act of transmission. When you breathe with presence while washing your hands, the field around you shifts. When you speak with sincerity to someone who expects automatic politeness, your coherence changes their day. When you walk with awareness, your energy grid imprints harmonizing signals into the land beneath your feet. These simple movements anchor your frequency more effectively than lofty spiritual techniques ever could. Grounding is not about forcing calm. It is about allowing your multidimensional nature to descend through every layer of your being until it touches the earth. And as this descent deepens, something remarkable happens. The earth responds. You begin to feel currents under your feet, subtle pulses rising through your legs, a warmth or tingling that has no physical explanation. You may sense the land calling your awareness to certain places, inviting your presence without words. You may feel guided to rearrange your living space, spend more time outdoors, or approach familiar environments with new intention. Your body becomes the bridge, and Gaia recognizes you instantly. This is anchoring the merging of cosmic intelligence with physical action. It grants you the ability to move through conflict without absorbing it. It allows you to walk into heavy spaces and remain clear. It stabilizes your field so deeply that external chaos no longer pulls you into reactive patterns. You begin to embody the very coherence you once sought from the world. People around you may not consciously understand what is happening, but they will feel it. They may find themselves relaxing in your presence without knowing why. They may speak more openly, breathe more deeply, soften in ways they normally wouldn't. This is the impact of an anchored heart field, a grounded being carrying frequencies that ripple outward through subtle resonance. And with each anchored step, your path opens wider, your choices feel clearer, your intuition speaks louder. The bridge between your higher blueprint and your physical life becomes stronger, more seamless, more automatic. You become a living conduit rooted in earth, aligned with the stars, carrying light into every space your presence touches. As your anchored presence settles into the fabric of your daily life, a new dimension of your awakening begins to shimmer at the edge of awareness. The grounded clarity you've cultivated doesn't close you off from the higher realms, it opens you to them with greater precision. Now that your frequency is stable, receptive, and embodied, the veil between worlds thins in response. What once felt distant or symbolic becomes intimate, tangible, unmistakably real. This is the phase of communion. It begins subtly, a warmth behind your sternum when you ask a quiet question, a soft pressure near the crown as if attention rests there, a sudden knowing that arrives without thought, carrying answers you did not reason your way into. You may brush these experiences aside at first, telling yourself they are coincidences or imagination. But the more you anchor your frequency into the physical world, the more naturally your star lineage responds. Your field becomes easier to read from the higher dimensions, and the guidance that once felt faint now arrives with a clarity impossible to ignore. Communion does not require ceremony. It requires coherence. And you've built that coherence through every moment of truth, every breath of intention, every step taken in alignment with your heart. Now your star family, those who have walked with you across incarnations and across realms, can speak to you through channels your mind cannot control. They reach you through subtle signals, because subtlety is the language of resonance, a recurring symbol appearing in unexpected places, a dream saturated with light and familiarity, a wave of peace that descends the moment confusion rises, a knowing that comes before the question has fully formed. These are not fantasies. They are responses. Your communion with the higher realms is not a distant promise or a dramatic event reserved for the chosen few. It is a natural extension of the architecture within you. And as that architecture continues to activate, the lines of connection grow stronger, forming a network that spans dimensions but feels as intimate as breath. Guidance flows through this network in many forms. You may feel a presence beside you, not heavy or intrusive, but gentle, luminous, reassuring. You may sense impressions during meditation, fluid images, swirling colors, the outline of beings whose love radiates more strongly than any word could express. You may experience sequences of synchronicities that combine into a message too precise to dismiss. Communion often begins as confirmation, yet quickly expands into companionship, the sense that you are accompanied, supported, uplifted by intelligences who understand your frequency better than any earthly relationship ever could. Their communication doesn't override your free will. It aligns with your highest potential. Every moment of communion carries a purpose. Sometimes it is guidance redirecting you gently when confusion clouds your path. Sometimes it is reassurance reminding you that your journey is seen, honored, and supported. Sometimes it is activation awakening dormant layers of your crystalline coding through resonance alone. And as this relationship deepens, something beautiful happens. You stop doubting the connection. You stop asking whether you're imagining things. You stop treating your own sensitivity as if it were fragile or unreliable. Instead, you begin to trust the signals, You begin to trust the alignments. You begin to trust the presence that meets you in the quiet. Your star family has never been far. You simply needed to rise into coherence so the lines could become clear. Now, as their guidance merges with your intuition and their resonance harmonizes with your field, you discover that communion is not outside of you at all. It is woven into your very becoming. As communion deepens, you begin to notice an even more subtle shift, one that does not come from above or beyond, but radiates outward from your own presence. The clarity you felt in Section 8 does more than connect you with your star lineage. It transforms the way your energy interacts with the world around you. You begin to realize that communication is no longer limited to words, thoughts, or intention. Your entire field has become a language, and others feel it, even when they cannot explain why. The atmosphere adjusts when you enter a room. Conversations soften around you. People breathe more easily, as if their bodies recognize something their minds have not yet named. This is not performance. This is resonance. Your frequency speaks first, long before your voice catches up. It carries your truth without force, your presence without effort, your coherence without explanation. This is the universal language communication through vibration rather than sound, meaning transmitted through alignment rather than dialogue. It is the language starseeds have always known, even when they forgot how to consciously express it. You feel its effects when someone relaxes near you without understanding why. You sense it when strangers respond with unexpected openness. You witness it when tension dissolves, simply because you chose to stand in authenticity. Your presence becomes a tuning fork. Your field becomes a lighthouse. Your coherence becomes an unspoken invitation, and the world responds. This language does not rely on articulation, yet it translates into every interaction. When you embody your true frequency, you broadcast signals of stability, compassion, and clarity that ripple far beyond your immediate environment. Your energy subtly reorders the space, helping others find their own inner alignment simply because your resonance reminds them what coherence feels like. The more you trust this, the stronger it becomes. You begin to notice that people confide in you without knowing why. You notice that solutions appear effortlessly when you remain grounded. You notice that animals, children, and sensitives gravitate toward you because they read energy more easily than words. This is your field speaking the universal language, not with sound, but with vibration, not with persuasion, but with presence, not with performance, but with truth. And yet, there is more. Your field communicates not only with humans, but with environments, timelines, and possibilities. When you enter a space carrying coherence, that coherence interacts with latent potentials around you. It strengthens paths aligned with truth. It dissolves paths built on distortion. Your presence alone becomes a subtle form of guidance, redirecting, uplifting, harmonizing. This is why your journey required grounding before communion, and communion before embodiment. Only a stable and integrated field can broadcast clearly. Only a coherent heart can speak in resonance. Only a grounded being can influence the world through presence rather than pressure. And the influence is real. Someone may remember their own clarity after speaking with you. Someone may choose compassion because your field made it feel safe. Someone may awaken a dormant piece of themselves simply because your vibration reminded them of who they are. This is not your ego at work. This is your design. Your architecture was built not only to receive light, but to emit it. Not only to awaken yourself, but to ignite remembrance in others. Not only to experience coherence, but to anchor it in the spaces you inhabit. Your presence is a message. Your resonance is a transmission. Your life is a living language that the universe reads through frequency. And as this truth settles into your awareness, you begin to understand the deeper purpose behind everything that has unfolded so far. You were never meant to merely speak the language of light. You were meant to become it. And as the realization settles that you have become the very language your soul once strained to remember, another truth rises beneath it, quiet but immense. You are no longer walking toward embodiment. You are standing in it. The process that once felt like yearning, unraveling, recalibrating, anchoring, communing, and transmitting, has led you here, the threshold where your presence itself becomes a bridge between realms. You are not reaching anymore. You are radiating. The architecture within you, once dormant and waiting, now hums with a unified clarity. The sensory field that once overwhelmed you now listens with exquisite precision. The heart that once carried old wounds now pulses with sovereign coherence. And the grounded presence that once felt fragile now stands unshakable. All of it converges into a single state of being a living portal through which higher frequencies enter this world. This is becoming the bridge. It does not mean leaving your humanity behind. It means elevating it. Your physical form becomes the meeting place of sky and soil, star and cell, memory and possibility. Your choices, your breath, your awareness, all of them unfold at the intersection of dimensions. You begin to sense currents above you, currents below you, and a vast intelligence moving through the center of your chest. None of it competes. All of it harmonizes. From this state, life responds differently. Paths that once felt blocked now open simply by your presence near them. Conversations shift direction because your coherence anchors truth. Relationships transform as your field dissolves distortion and amplifies authenticity. The world becomes more fluid, more responsive, more alive beneath your feet. Not because the world changed, but because you did. Your inner architecture now interacts with reality in real time. When you step into a space, possibilities rearrange themselves. When you hold an intention, the field adjusts around it. When you choose compassion over fear, timelines realign. You become less of an observer and more of a participant in the subtle mechanics of existence. And others feel it, even if they cannot articulate it. Some will gravitate toward you, drawn by a familiarity they cannot explain. Some will feel activated, awakened, or comforted in your presence. Some may even feel unsettled, not because you threaten them, but because your coherence highlights the distortions they are not ready to release. All responses are natural. All are part of the bridge you embody. Your task is not to change others, but to remain aligned. The bridge does not force passage, it offers it. As your embodiment deepens, you notice that you no longer seek external confirmation. Guidance flows from within as clearly as it flows from beyond. Your intuition and your communion operate as a single voice. Your grounded actions and your cosmic awareness merge into a unified intelligence. You stop dividing yourself into spiritual and human, higher and lower, here and there. Those divisions were part of the old identity, not your true design. You carry both worlds within you now. And because of this, your purpose sharpens, not as a task to accomplish, but as a frequency to hold. Your presence becomes a stabilizing force amid collective turbulence. Your clarity becomes a signal in the noise. Your coherence becomes a lighthouse in shifting tides. You are the reminder that humanity is not separate from the cosmos, but an expression of it. Becoming the bridge is not the end of your journey. It is the state from which all future steps will arise. You stand where dimensions meet. You breathe where worlds converge. You walk carrying both memory and possibility. And everything ahead of you unfolds from this luminous convergence. And now, as the radiance of your becoming settles into a steady glow, the path ahead softens. The vastness you touched in Section 10 does not fade, it integrates. The meeting point of dimensions that once felt extraordinary becomes the quiet rhythm of your daily life. You no longer stand at the threshold trembling with anticipation. You stand within the doorway itself, moving in both directions with ease, carrying the memory of the stars and the weightlessness of truth in every breath. The world feels different because you feel different, not louder, not brighter, but clearer. The bridge you have become is not a role to perform. It is a state to inhabit. You are not here to constantly strive upward or reach outward. You are here to let your coherence ripple gently into the spaces you touch, to allow your presence to be a steadying current, to move through life with the quiet authority of someone who remembers both their origin and their purpose. And in this softer phase, reflection matters. Take a moment even now to sense how far you have traveled within yourself. Feel the architecture that once slept now alive beneath your awareness. Feel the sensory field that once overwhelmed you now guiding you with precision. Feel the heart that once questioned its worth now radiating clarity without effort. Feel the grounded presence that once wavered now anchoring light into the world simply through being. This is your arrival, not an ending, a settling, a gentle exhale after a long expansion. You carry a frequency that shapes more than your own path. It shapes the way others remember themselves. It shapes the way the world responds to coherence. It shapes the unfolding of your future not through prediction, but through resonance. So allow yourself to move forward with quiet confidence. Let your steps be deliberate, your choices attuned, your presence steady. You do not need to force momentum. Your field already creates it. You do not need to shout truth. Your resonance already speaks it. You do not need to search for belonging. You embody it. You are home within yourself. And from that home, everything else opens.